Monument up there, unknown.
So, would you mind saying that if I video it?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me your name again.
Richard Stewart.
Hi, Mr. Stewart. Tell me the story again about the Battle of the Crater and the Confederates.
The Battle of the Crater took place July the 3rd, 1864. And some 2,000 black men were slaughtered at the crater because it was a vendetta against the black folks. General McHorn led the charge. Then when they got there and started fighting, the Yankees started helping the Southern soldiers to kill the black soldiers because they had never seen that. And when they finished, there was some 2,000 dead, and they left them in the cemetery to make sure they were dead, but the white and all of them turned black. So they dig a hole up there and pushed all the Confederates in, called unknown Confederates. And that's where a lot of our folks were buried, in the unknown Confederate cemetery up there.
Wow, that's an amazing story.
Yes,
because even on the placard up by the visitor center, it just says 2,000 Southern soldiers, but it doesn't say anything about blacks or
no.
any kind of...
Now, across the street, that was called a slave cemetery.
Yes,
Yeah,
Peter G. Morgan is buried there.
Peter G. Morgan.
You know him?
Yeah, now they from Pocahontas.
That's my second great-grandfather.
I live in a house of Morgans. I inherited from the Morgan. Yeah, in Pocahontas, where I come from, the Morgan family.
That's my family.
Yeah, Peter Morgan was involved. Yeah, I was reading something about Peter Morgan the other day, and Peter Morgan on Bolingbroke Street, some kind of way, he was a great man, Peter Morgan. But I have the house now, a man named Cliff Morgan, that I had bought. That's why I made museums in, because you had there, most of the Morgan was from Pocahontas.
Yes, from Pocahontas.
Yeah, and I'm 12th generation from ancestors back in Pocahontas.
12th generation.
Yeah, see, I became a Stewart in 1882, but the Brown goes all the way back before the birth of the Revolutionary War.
Do you know Annie Stewart?
That was my mother's name. I know it's probably my mother's name.
My great aunt is Annie Stewart. I'm actually on my way to see her as soon as we leave here.
Now,
she married she married a Stewart, but she was a Morgan. She was Annie Morgan, and she married a Stewart. That's her husband's first name.
Wow. See, because my mother was named Annie Stewart, and see, most of us came out. You know, Walthall exit in Walthall in that area.
No.
You remember with Swan family? The Stewarts have out there now called it Walthall exit. That's where a lot of us came from.
Okay.
I own land right now that's been in there. Our family all the way back in the late 1700s. I'm really the last one.
Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So going back, so how did you end up in the Morgan home?
A rite of passage.
So one of your people was a Morgan, or no? Just
what
they
happened?
Were sold from the Morgans to.
Now what happened when I was a young child? Something about the community said one day I can grow up and gonna look out for Pocahontas. So the first house I got, Miss Cliff Morgan made sure I stayed there, that I never leave Pocahontas. Then as I stayed over the year, they sold me the property for a real low price. And I just renovate the property. And the last house I bought from her, I've turned it into a museum, Pocahontas. If you look on the internet, you can find it.
So what is the address of where Peter Morgan lived?
Okay, the family, we believe, he lived at 133 Ross Street, because that was the family.
How do you spell it?
R-O-L-F-E.
Oh,
Street.
like Rolfe, like
Rolfe, John
Pocahontas?
Rolfe. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think he lived at 133, because that was the Morgan home right there.
Okay. Now, you see, that's a small world. That's a God thing, that you could be in the middle of the cemetery in Petersburg on a weekend, and somebody stopped, and they...
There is Morgans right here in Petersburg. There's a lot of them. I know Ann Morgan.
You know Ruth Morgan? Ruth Morgan Harrison?
Now, Ruth Morgan, see, that's what I'm saying. You call it names, but Ruth Morgan was Cliff Morgan's sister, who was a teacher from Pocahontas. Her name was Ruth. She finished Virginia State back in the 90s.
Yeah, I wonder if that's my mom's cousin, Ruth.
Ruth Morgan.
But she married a Harrison.
But this one married, Ruth Morgan, she married, I know she married a French. She was the last one. I tried to think what her name was. Ruth Morgan. She married somebody else before that.
What year did you finish state?
She finished state back in 1940.
Did you also go to state?
I went to state only for one term. Then I wound up going to
What year was that?
That was back in 1969.
Okay, so my mom finished state, I think, in '65. Mildred Ann Jackson. They lived on Mistletoe Street.
Wow, I know Ann Jackson.
That's my mom.
I told you I know Ann Miss Jackson. Yeah, I know Ann Jackson.
And Mildred Jackson Webb, my
Wow.
grandmother, lived on
See,
508 Mistletoe Street.
Right, yeah, and no, yeah, but like I said, all of things is there. If you ever can get the history of Bolingbroke Street, they talk about Peter Morgan and all them type of people like that in that area because a lot of black folk lived on Bolingbroke Street and Bank Street, what once they called Lombardic Street. Yeah.
Well, who would have the history of Bolingbroke Street?
Bolingbroke Street,
I mean, the library or?
I don't know, but Bolingbroke Street was a very prominent street. You found a lot of, on Bolingbroke Street, you had, hotels, little everything. That's where the big slave masters lived. The Davis family. George Davis. You had George Davis, Henry Davis. And then you had, Davis was Jews.
Okay.
They were the #1 slave traders in here. Then you had Abrams, and then you had the Lions. The Lions, yeah. That was the #1 because they sold slaves right down the corner of Sycamore Street and Bank Street. You know what Long Street is right now?
I know where Sycamore is.
Yeah, in Bank Street. That's where they sold slaves. That's where they sold them, right in that area.
Now, do you know about the controversy with the 1890 census? Why that was so, how there was a big fire in D.C. and the 1890 census, even in, I think, the Petersburg courthouse. But supposedly it was the 1890 census was a big deal for blacks because it would finally show, I guess, those blacks who were descendants of slave owners their inheritance or something. There was something really big about the 1890 census.
Only thing I know from my research and my family, if you find your folks in the 1860 census, probably you're not slave. You're not going to find yourself, if you were a slave, you're not going to find yourself to 1870 in the census. Because they didn't keep census of slaves. You get it? Because right now, I can go 1860 and find my folks.
Right.
And then again, 1870, 1880 in Petersburg. Like one of my relatives was named Moses Brown.
Okay.
And I found Moses Brown in 1880 living on Lombardic Street, which is now Bank Street.
So you're saying if they were in the 1860 census, they were free people?
They were free folk because they didn't keep records of slaves.
Because the war hadn't ended yet. The Emancipation Proclamation hadn't ended yet.
Well, the Emancipation Proclamation was issued, but they didn't start recording it. See, that's why
until 1870.
Most of them ain't had no last name.
Sure.
See, they didn't get a last name until after the Civil War.
Right.
Because most of them was named John, Peter, Joe, Jack.
Sure.
So when we went to the courthouse, I was on Mr. Tyler's plantation, so named John Tyler. That's how a lot of them got the name.
Right. So by the 1870 census, the war was over.
Yes,
the
ma'am.
proclamation, they were freed. They were now John Tyler.
You got it.
Somebody
You got it.
First and last name,
Yes.
but mostly the surname was taken from the plantation.
Yes, ma'am. Right. You got it.
And the Freedmen's Bureau, by that point, had come into play, and people were starting to go to school and college and that type of thing.
Yeah. But see, really, the big move was same year, Virginia State in 1882. That's when the land grant was granted by Virginia State, 1882.
Now, did Peter Morgan since he was a legislator at that time, did he have a role to play in getting the funding for Virginia State?
Coulda. I think I saw something about Peter. See, what they did, they tried to, General McHorn lined himself up with the black folks.
Who did?
General McHorn, the man
General
who led the
McHorn?
Battle of the Crater.
Okay.
And they formed sort of an adjustment party.
Okay.
After he got what he wanted, he turned against them.
Turn against the blacks.
Black. And then if you read about in Petersburg,
A turncoat.
McHorn made James Harris, who's part of Virginia State, run for lieutenant governor. And that he knew he wasn't going to win. That elevated Campbell to win. So there's a lot of maneuvering in politics around here. There was 24 people on city council at the time. Councilman. It was 24. Yeah. But that Peter Morgan, that's a name. Yes, it is.
So tell us again what you were saying about this large tree over here. Is this a sycamore tree or what kind of tree?
I don't know, but they said that's what the majority of the people are buried black
People of color.
elusive tree. Cause only about 25 meters away there. Herman Fauntleroy, the first black mayor of Petersburg, he's buried right down there.
And so prior to, you said really blacks, so we're in July 2nd of 2016, and only about 8 years ago were people of color actually,
About 10 years.
about 10 years ago, starting to be buried here. So if someone was buried here in 1913,
They was awesome.
did you get that?
They was awesome.
So if a person of color that was mulatto or
Yes,
something had
yes.
some kind of one-drop rule, if they're buried here in Blandford Cemetery in Petersburg off Crater Road.
Yes, they was awesome. Remember, you had to be a prominent black person,
High class.
and you had in a mulatto, fourth generation mulatto, 7, 8 white. They elevate you high at that time. High,
To be 7/8.
Well, 7, 8. See, you can't be no more.
Okay.
As long as you got one drop of blood
drop.
in you, you're black, according to the black codes of Virginia. Now, Albert Jones, you heard of Albert Jones?
No.
He's the last prominent guy with the large monument over there. Albert Jones, the Albert Jones field up there, like what's he's buried in here. Bessie Jones and Vicky Jones. So they were just buried in here about 5 or 6 years ago. But to be buried in 1913, he was awesome.
Because even on the database for Blandford Cemetery online, when I look up William Armstead, who would have been my third great grandfather on my maternal side, he married Molly Moss, and she became Molly Moss Armstead. So he was about 10 or 15 years older than she, but on the database here for Blandford Cemetery, it has him just listed as black, not even mulatto, just says black, died of heart disease. Didn't list any kin or anything like that.
Now, I'm going to tell you how they camouflage black folks here. A lady told me this secret years ago. I'm telling you secrets now.
Tell all the secrets.
All the secrets. If you go in them files they got up there and look at certain things, you can say COL. What they associate you with? Colonel.
Colonel. Okay.
See, a lot of black folks, some black folks are buried here,
I swallowed that.
but when you see CO, you think Colonel, but they color folks. And they never highlight what he at.
Yeah.
They got Colonel. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm talking too much.
You know that's the enemy trying to come, right?
Sure. Yeah.
I just swallowed a mouthful of gnats and missed the whole story.
I know I run my mouth.
No, I want to hear it.
I got it.
Wow. COL, normally you would associate with a battlefield with a cemetery for soldiers.
Yeah.
As bringing Colonel.
Yeah, Colonel, right. That's what you got it. And that's why a lot of them in here right now.
Okay. Hold on, Paul.
It's
Come
hidden
here.
under that CO, which is colored, but they moved it because they want you to know black folks are there. That's in the cemetery.
Yeah, I'm wondering if this
That's why
stone is,
it's an exceptional person here. Very
if this is my William Armstead, I wonder. I don't know because it's so worn, so weather beaten.
Yeah.
You can almost kind of pull out like a W here that could be William. Kind of a long first name and a long last name. Maybe that's a D. There is an S. I don't know. Or maybe it's just somebody. I don't, obviously somebody.
I think you're right.
But is this my William? I wonder.
I believe it is. I believe it is. But a lot of times,
Because it's near the tree.
A lot of time you back yourself into it. If you can find another adjacent grave or something that you know, you can find yourself according to that area.
Right, but there's no one else that I know that's buried
Uh-huh.
here. Definitely not an Armstead, but it is kind of near the tree.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So it's an older grave.
Yes,
it's
it is.
alone.
It's been here a long time because you look at the pattern of the headstone, the earl. Each headstone come from an earl, and that's an old boy there.
Because it's just
Yeah.
a
See this?
smooth arch.
Yeah, see them bottom ones
Yeah, the modern ones are
in between
square.
one. No, it's old. Even you look at these poles here.
What do the poles
This was
mean?
an iron fence.
This is what?
This was an iron fence.
An iron
this
fence.
Is an old cemetery here.
Okay.
Yeah. Wow. And see, according to the cemetery, the higher they buried you, the more prominent you were.
The closer to the Crater Road?
Top, highest elevation.
The
Rich folks buried high.
Sure.
You know, so you had some prominent peoples here. See,
Oh, but even here within Section